Hi friends, welcome to SBK English Academy. I am Saranavasappa, English teacher at a government model school, Karnataka state. In today's video, I will discuss the modern poetry or the 20th century poetry and along with that Georgian group of poets and their poetry and works. If you haven't subscribed to my channel, please subscribe. Now, see, modern poetry is entirely different from the previous poetry of the periods like Elizabeth, Restoration, Augustan, Romantic, and Victorian. Because this 20th century witnessed with two great world wars, World War First, World War Second. So these two great world wars greatly influenced English literature, especially on poetry. Many poets of English language wrote and pictured the horror and casualties of those two world wars in their poetry. Many poets were many poets were themselves the soldiers, and many soldiers were themselves the poets in English literature. They pictured the horrors and the casualties, the destructions, the effects and causes of these two great world wars in their poetry also. And this modern age, especially 20th century, witnessed with the great development or the rapid development of in the field of science, education, technology, and political upheavals, up and downs also happened in the 20th century. So all these aspects are discussed and written and pictured or drew very interesting way and also clearly in the modern days poetry by the modern poets. So now look at who are the great important modern poets or the 20th century poets. Now look at first poet of the modern age is that is Robert Bridges. See, Robert Bridges was the dominating figure in the modern poetry or the 20th century poetry. He lived from 1844 to 1930. See, he was born at Welmer, Kent in England. He was educated at Eton College, Corpus Christi College, Oxford. He was a doctor and a scholar, became poet laureate in 1913 to 1930 and carried on the Victorian tradition after Tennyson. So you have to remember, after Tennyson, Alfred Lord Tennyson, this Robert Bridges carried the Victorian tradition of writing poetry in his poems. His poems reflect a deep Christian faith, and he is the author of many well-known hymns. He theorized on English prosody and tried experiments in meter. He was the first editor of Hopkins's poems. So this question was asked in the previous both KSET and UGC NTA English net question paper. Who edited Hopkins's poems? So that is Robert Bridges. See, he first time published all Hopkins's poetry in 1918? This question was also asked in the previous net and KSET question paper. See, Robert Bridges was the first person or the first time published all Hopkins's poetry in 1918. So it was through Bridges's effort and hard work that Gerald Manley Hopkins achieved posthumous fame. So, up to the death of Gerald Manley Hopkins, he did not publish any of his poems. So, all his poems were published after his death by Robert Bridges only because of Robert Bridges' hard work, kind work that Gerald Manley Hopkins achieved fame after his death. So, if that Robert Bridges did not publish and did not edit the poems of Gerald Manley Hopkins, I think this world would have not witnessed or read this great modern poet Hopkins. In the book Milton's Prosody, he took an empirical approach to examining Milton's use of blank verse. See, now we have to look at works of Robert Bridges. Testament of Beauty, which was published in 1929. See, this Testament of Beauty is a long philosophical poem embodying, means including the accumulated wisdom of long life. And the second work is The Growth of Love, which was published in 1876. The third one is Prometheus, the Fire Giver. It is a masque in the Greek manner, which was published in 1883. So the second modern minor poet, that is Fry Gibson. So he is notable for his stern realism and sympathy for the poor. Most of his poems describe the hardships of the working class of his native Northumberland. His works are Nets of Love, Stone Folds, Daily Bread, Livelihood. Now we have to go to the very important group of poets or the very important group of poetry moment. So Georgian poets and poetry. So every year there is a question on Georgian poets or the characteristics of Georgian poetry in NUT and KSET question paper. So you have to look at what are the characteristics and who are the poets of Georgian poetry. See, Georgian poetry refers to a series of anthologies showing the works of a school of English poetry. Georgian poetry is the poetry of a period from 1910 to 1935 when King George V ruled over England. So this question was asked in the previous question paper. So the Georgian poetry covers the period from 1910 to 1935 when King V ruled England. See, it is an easy, simple, largely in the romantic vein, having certain marked characteristics of its own. See, this group had a positive aim. It was to treat natural things in a clear, natural, and beautiful way, neither too modern nor too like tension. They disregarded the use of the archaic diction as the and thou. So these are the old English pronouns. They dropped the gorgeous and grandiloquent expressions in thought and expressions. In reaction to Victorian didacticism, They were avoided all formally religious, philosophic, or improving themes. They were neither imperialistic nor patheistic, but as simple as a child's reading book. So these Georgian poets used the language. Even child can also read their poetry. So the language is very easy. See, their themes mainly deal with what are the themes of Georgian poetry? Look at nature, love, leisure, old age, childhood, animals, slave, unemotional subjects. So these are the important themes of Georgian poetry. See, Georgian poetry is an anthology edited by Edward Morse. So this question was also asked in the previous question paper. So you have to remember this. Georgian poetry is an anthology edited by Edward Marsh. Be careful about this line. Now we go to next. So you can remember these are the characteristics of Georgian poetry. So these characteristics are asked in the question paper. Be careful about these. Yes, now we have to look at main important poets of that Georgian poetry, that is W.H. Davis. He lived from 1817 to 1940. See, William Henry David was born on 3rd July 1871 at Newport, United Kingdom. He described himself as an upper Strand, a Welsh poet and a writer. David spent a significant of his life as tramp or hobo in the UK and US, but became one of the most popular poets of his time. He is also one of the Georgian poets. See his works, The Soul's Destroyer and Other Poems. In this collections of poems includes The Farmers, Alston Rivers, Jonathan Cape. These are the main important poems of this series. Next works are New Poems, Nature Poems, How It Feels to Be Out of Work, Farewell to Poesy, Songs of Joy and Other Poems. So these are works by W.S. Davis. Now we have to look at very important influential poet of modern age. He was also a poet and a dramatist also. That is Walter de la Mare. See, Walter de la Mare was born in 1873 at Charlton, Kent, England. He was an English poet, a short story writer, and also novelist, a playwright also. He is especially remembered for his work for children. For his poems, The Listeners. He has a special place among the Georgians as the creator of an enchanted world of dream fairies, shadows, and silences, which is appealing to children and is not without interest to adults. So now to look at the works of Walter de la Mare. So, first poem is that is Listener, published in 1912. The Peacock Pie, very important poem. Remember this poem, Peacock Pie, which was published in 1913. The Whale, 1921. Ding Dong Bell, 1924. Old Rhymes and New, 1932. The Burning Glass is also very important poem by Walter de la Mare. So you have to remember Peacock Pie, The Listener, and The Burning Glass. So see, prose works of Walter de la Mare are Henry Broken, The Return, The Memoirs of a Midget, At First Sight. And critical works are Rupert Brooke's and Intellectual Imagination. See, this is very important. Rupert Brooke's and Intellectual Imagination, which was published in 1919. Desert Islands and Robinson Crusoe, 1930. Pleasures and Speculations, published in 1940. So these are the critical works by Walter de la Mare. Now we have to look at another one important poet, that is John Masefield. See, John Masefield was born in 1878 and died in 1970. See, John Masefield was a poet laureate from Robert Bridges. So it means John Masefield succeeded Robert Bridges as the poet laureate. He was also one of the Georgian poets. He is strong specially in his narrative poems. His works, The Everlasting Mercy, which was published in 1911, it is the long story of a sinner, confession and conversion. With its violent language and stark realism made him instantly famous. This poem made him very famous. The second work, The Window in the By Street, 1911. Dauber, Lollingdon, Downs, Reynard the Fox, Enslaved, Right Royal, Saltwater Ballads, Ballads and Poems. These are important works by John Masefield. Now look at John Drinkwater. He was an English poet and dramatist. See his works, poems published in 1903, Autumn Fools, 1916, Royalties, it's also play, 1918, very important play of modern age, Bird in Hand, it is also very important, 1927, Summers of Harvest, 1933. See, Abraham Lincoln is a play written by John Drinkwater. This question was asked in the previous question paper. So see, up to now in this video, we discuss the very important modern poets, especially the Robert Bridges and Gerald Manley Hopkins and other important poets of Georgian poetry. So in the next video, we'll discuss the remaining W.B. Yeats and T.S. Eliot, Ezra Pound and war poets, and also Oxford moment poets, and also that is Arden group of poetry, moment poetry in the next coming videos. Thank you for watching this video. Please subscribe to channel and share your friends and like my videos. Prepare for the next coming examination.